Good morning. I'm Gerson Borrero with Ashley Hupfl, who's our Albany correspondent here in the state's capital. It's a very cold morning in the state's capital, but here to warm it up is Heastie, a Bronx Assemblyman. He's also the newly minted Speaker of the New York State Assembly. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to see somebody from the Bronx and somebody that we can relate to in the room. So first of all, how are things going in terms of your expectations, what the office of the Speaker or the role of the Speaker required? Is it something more overwhelmed right now at this point, or you just fit in right into it?
I wouldn't say it's overwhelming. It's trying to learn all of the issues for the state, from the North Country all the way out to the tip of Long Island. And the members have been great, helping to educate me on all of the areas around the state. We've been very united in terms of what we'd like to see happen in the budget. So it's really been great. It's not been overwhelming at all.
That's good. By the way, I like so far what I'm seeing. You stepped into it. You've been talking to the governor. You've hit him a few times. He's hit you back, and you mean that, in the sense that I mean. And it's been good to see the give and take. Maybe he thought he was going to have a walkover. How has your dealings with the governor? I know you have a great relationship with him. He himself told me that you guys spoke often, even before you were Speaker. So how is that going now? Has it changed, or you still see is there room for some friendship?
There's just always going to be, when you have an executive and you have the legislature, there's always going to be difference of opinion. There's always going to be, some contentiousness when you are, trying to get to a budget. And that's where we are now. Yeah, we always had a good relationship. Even before I became Speaker, even before I became County Chair, we always had a good relationship. But we're at a point now where we like to have an on-time budget, but we just have to continue to talk about education. I believe the governor, and we in the legislature, we'd like to see something done about struggling schools. But the point that I've been trying to continue to make is that there's a correlation between struggling schools and poverty.
Correct.
And that students walk into the classrooms with challenges that teachers alone can't fix. So I've just said that whatever plan we do, that it should not just be about blaming teachers because children come into school with problems, particularly dealing hunger, poverty, and other issues that they may be dealing with at home.
Before I actually ask you questions about the budget and the inner workings, I have one more question relating to a topic that's very hot, of concern to all the entire state, especially to communities of color. Let's make it clear. It seems that in some circles, it is perceived that the governor doesn't understand what we're talking about and how our children are being not educated properly. There also seems to be a scapegoating of teachers. Where do you stand with that, and what's the conversation you have with the governor? Because it relates back to dollars misspent sometimes, and dollars that need to be reinvested or redirected.
Well, this is what I mean when I was saying, trying to, remind the governor that there's a correlation between, struggling schools and poverty. And when you want to extend the school day for those struggling schools, make them community schools, give children more opportunities to deal with the issues that they may be dealing with back at home. You make the day longer, give them tutoring, give them more opportunities, give them a meal, some of the things that they may not be getting at home. And so this is the ideas we've been trying to put forward. I'm actually happy that after this is my 15th year in the legislature, where we're really talking about trying to focus on what is really the issues that these children are dealing with, so that they can come into school with a better mind frame. Because I think when your mind is right, it is much easier for you to go to school and do what you're supposed to do, which is learn.
With all the talk of community schools and after-school programs, I know that's discussed a lot in the city, but you don't hear that really a lot out of the city in upstate. Is that being discussed? Yeah,
these things are statewide approaches that, as I said, now being Speaker, you have to care about every single community in the state. Even when I was a legislator, I cared about the entire state, but of course, being from the Bronx, you really were focusing on the Bronx and the city. But now we have to make sure that every corner of the state is taken care of.
So, what part of the education reforms do you have? Is it the 50% testing tied to teacher evaluations? Or all these ethics being tied to so much funding?
Well, there's concerns everywhere, and this is what as I say, our forefathers put forth a checks and balances system. The governor has his idea of what he'd like to see, and then the legislature has, we have an idea, and sometimes you try to meet somewhere in between, and that's where we are. I mean, there's issues of concern on all aspects: tenure, teacher evaluation, receivership. All of these things are on the table being discussed.
And what are your thoughts on the education investment tax?
There's support within it for the conference, but not enough for us to include it in our budget. And this is something that the governor and the Senate is supporting. So at this point, everything is still on the table.
And going into the last week of the budget, with you and Cuomo on the same page of ethics reform, will education really be the last thing that will be really hammered out, you think?
Well, that's education is a big chunk of the budget, and the way that the governor has written his budget, he's tied extra funding for education to the reforms. We don't necessarily agree that should happen because there are communities that still need resources. But in the end, we want to try to get an on-time budget. We still have time, and that's what we're doing. Staff is working this weekend. I've spoken to the governor last night. I'm sure I'll speak to him today and tomorrow and Monday and Tuesday for us to try to get to a place where we have an on-time budget that takes care of the needs of all the communities across the state.
Going from a legislator a position in which you were part of the process, but not really knowing what was going on inside the room. All of a sudden, you're just thrown into this situation because of the circumstances and how they unfolded. Is it fair for some of us in the media who have said that you're carrying, and recently criticism was out that somehow someone in the second floor with the governor, not that you're carrying Speaker Silva's agenda. Is that fair on our part, or is it unfair? The fact is, you can't reinvent what's already been on the table. So are we being too premature in evaluating you as you step into the role, or is this, there are some things in that budget and that's already been negotiated that you're going to try to better, but you really can't redo it so it's Carl Hastie's budget. So would that be a more appropriate approach in terms of the media and us giving you a little wiggle room here?
Well, I'll say this. To me, it's the opinions and the focus of the other 105 members. As I've said, I've always tried to be a consensus builder. So in discussions with the governor on all issues, from ethics to health to education, it continues to be what's the conscience of the conference. So, outside opinions, forgive me, the media or even the governor doesn't. No, it doesn't matter. It really is the opinions.
So you're focused.
Right. And as I said, this is it's a representative government. The 105 other Democrats besides myself. 104 now, Democrats beside myself, we really put forward a family first budget, and that's where we continue to negotiate from. So those opinions on who they think is is behind the scenes is really irrelevant.
But it is somewhat fair that the budget. Okay, so I'm going to include all of you in the legislative process and the legislature that already had some input with Speaker Silver. So in a way, I'm trying to give you some wiggle room here. So that I know that we're criticized, but the fact is that you already had input, even if it is partially ex-Speaker Silver's budget, right? You already had that. Well, there was a process to use, or have you changed the process even in this short time to include more voices? I hear that you're doing that. Right.
Well, this is what normally happens. The governor proposes the budget, and so during the time when the governor proposed the budget, then the very next day, the circumstances unfolded, and then we had conference around the governor's proposal. And then we put forward our own proposal. So all of that was done once I had assumed, the speakership. So this was really a budget put forth by the conference since I have become speaker.
Okay. Okay. You have another question?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
You're on a roll.
I know you got to run, so let me know. By the way, one of the things that is not known, and I don't know why your office is there, I'm looking at one of the first Latino hired in the Speaker's office to handle the press. He happens to be someone that actually, don't hold it against him, we actually worked together in a newspaper.
No, you can talk about him. No, he's a good friend of yours.
Well, actually, we're very good colleagues for a long time. He was my metro editor at El Diario La Prensa. So I congratulate you on the fact that you need diversity in the Speaker's office at all levels, and this, you happen to have selected a very qualified person. Again, don't hold it against him that we actually know each other. But the fact is that I was pleased, but I also noticed that you didn't make a big deal out of that. You didn't exploit it. You didn't. I mean, even in SOMOS, I'm telling people. I saw Heriberto yesterday, and are you just doing things and not? I mean, I know you don't like, you get enough press attention. So, and I know there's another person there, who a young lady, African American, that you brought in from Assemblyman Wright's office, also that you have. So there's diversity coming in. Tell me how the changes are already occurring in the structure of what was traditional and accepted by many other members who complained. But you're beginning to, are you just going ahead and doing it and not making a big deal out of it?
I've never been one to, draw a lot of attention to those type of things. I would just hope that people that have known me and know the person that I am, that I'm going to try to do right by all communities. I do think it's an opportunity since I've become speaker to open up more doors, particularly for people of color, and I'm going to continue to do that. And he's been a great addition. I'm happy he's here. And I'm wondering now if maybe the reason that you being so nice to me is because your relationship.
Oh no! He hasn't even pitched yet. He's staying away from me. He knows me better than that. But I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to even.
No, I'm just messing with you.
I know you are, but we know each other. By the way, I think that one of the things, what should be actually, and this retelling, there's tradition of watching what comes out once the budget is done. If in fact it's going to be on time April 1st. If in fact it's April 1st, does it mean that, should we perceive it as a fact that there was a kumbaya moment, everybody came together, or if it goes beyond that there are really some serious issues, or do you foresee that there would be a delay, that we won't meet that you won't meet the deadline of April 1st?
I'm still confident that we will have an on-time budget. That's the goal, but budgets have to be right. So the right budget is more paramount than an on-time budget. An on-time budget that fails across the board to take care of communities is not something that we want. But no one wants to have a fight with the governor. No one wants to have a late budget. It brings instability to communities across the state. But the governor's threatened that if we don't agree with a lot of his things, and without compromise, that he's going to put forward a budget that I think a lot of people in the state won't like, and he'll. Based on the Constitution, the legislature only has one option, which is to vote it up or down. And this is why I've continued to call on the people, the media and people to say, that's not what our forefathers, envisioned when they wanted to have a system of checks and balances where the legislature has to make a decision on the budget, under threats. We should be able to represent our communities just as the same way the governor, he's statewide, he gets to represent, his vision. But there was always wanted to be a system of checks and balances. And I continue to say, if we continue to have a budget process this way, it really hampers the legislature's ability to put forward, our ideas.
Thank you, Speaker Carl Heastie.
Thank you.
Best of luck on the budget negotiations. And SOMOS 2015 continues. The conference continues. There's workshops to be had. I know there's a lot of people pulling, so we appreciate you stopping by. City and State TV will continue streaming live from conference 2015 SOMOS. And good luck with your bear hugs.
Thank you.
Take care. Good luck.
Thank you again.